Welcome to this month's prediction readings for April 2025 for Australia. I'm also taking a look at the politicians and how they're faring for this month. Where's their energy at the moment? I'll also look at some minor parties, so we'll take a look at Clive Palmer's party, Trumpets of Patriots, and One Nation as well. I'll also answer some questions that's in last month's comments, and one of those being Albanese and or Dutton turning into a communist country by 2030. Very interesting question. I look forward to getting into that. Let's get into this reading. I'm starting first of all with what's making headlines in April 2025 in Australia. Let's take a look and see what the cards are revealing for April 2025 headlines in Australia. First thing I noticed when I was shuffling and these two cards fell out together, politicians or government, society collapse. Isn't that interesting given the question that I'm going to be asking today about Albanese or Dutton turning Oz into a communist country by 2030? And here we've got society collapse, politicians and government. I just found that really fascinating that those two have come out together, given the list of topics that I've given the cards to talk about today. Also with this here, I feel due to government overspending, we do have a lot of issues in Australia when it comes to rate rises, electricity, food, coffee. All of these things are going up currently. Society collapse, I feel, represents what the politicians have done to our society. I feel like with the rate rises and the groceries going up and coffee going up, electricity going up, I feel like the system is collapsing or the economy is collapsing. It's the people bringing some people to breaking point is how I feel about this. It's not quite society collapse. Not all society collapses, but some people do, and certain parts of the society do break. And that's because of the decisions made by government spending. I keep hearing government spending over and over again. And rectifying the problem up here, I'm hearing rectifying the problem, but then I look up and see problem is actually causing issues. So where they're having to put different things up or the solutions they bring in actually make it worse for some sectors of the community or some sectors of Australia. So here I'm seeing, I see politics and government, I see as in April they're trying to find solutions to this and solutions to that, but I feel a lot of the issues have come from decisions that the politicians have made in the past relating to spending, relating to wanting to continue to spend with overseas issues. Now this card here also talks about the border. I've got other things I'm picking up around this, but when this comes in with American, I always think about people transport or border issues. Now we don't really have borders with any other countries, but I did notice when we had the cyclone Alfred coming in to Queensland, New South Wales, it was all about a lot of talk about without borders, without boundaries, and work undergoing or solutions to the problem of the cyclone without boundaries, without borders. So I'm wondering if that's what's coming in around there. Now, classified knowledge. Okay, I am reading April. I've got to keep that in mind. But I'm seeing here classified knowledge or knowledge shared between the two. This is what I'm kind of bringing in around that between the two. Now, this could be some kind of assistance package or a solution to the problem, which we're seeing here. I'm not sure if it's Alfred's cleanup problem or if it's a new problem coming in, but I do see issues around borders, between borders. So that goes over two states. So whether that's New South Wales and Queensland, or if we're talking about a completely different state, two state borders, looking for solutions, but there is classified knowledge. So maybe the information, now this could be health related as well. This could be not all of the information makes it from one state to another. So it's like not shared resources. We don't share information. Things aren't shared between states. So when we're looking for solutions to different problems, it would be helpful to have national solutions. Maybe that's what they're trying to bring in. Maybe politicians or government are trying to work on national solutions rather than state solutions. Maybe they're breaking it back up into the states again, like they did in the pandemic. They broke it up into states. We saw a lot of state-run initiatives or state-run ways of doing things. Lockdowns were determined by state leaders rather than national leaders. Our national leader took a back seat there. Now, why am I seeing these cards come back up again? We've got pandemic on the table. Are we talking about how that was handled, how that evidence of scandals relating to that, evidence of scandals relating to the pandemic and the borders and the shutdowns? Could this be making headlines in April? Now, I don't think it would be mainstream news, but I do feel there's issues coming up around here. We've got evidence of scandal sitting underneath the pandemic or the health crisis. We could be talking about any number of things when it comes to the COVID way things were handled in Australia, but evidence of scandal going here, but keeping it quiet. Look at that. Health matter. Really interesting cards here. So there could be some kind of national hearing or something going on. They're trying to keep it quiet though. I don't know if it's worldwide or if it's just taking place in Australia, but we're bringing into light here in April or any time from now to April, because usually these cards happen once the reading goes live. Now here I'm seeing both times pandemic and health matter. So are we talking about the way the COVID crisis was handled, trying to keep that quiet, the evidence of scandal around that? I feel that's what's going on there. So maybe classifying knowledge. So how about that? We're interlinking certain cards here. Classifying information, not releasing information. Is this about vaccines? Is this information about how the borders were shut down? And because I'm seeing the border card here, and how that was handled, how misuse of information, misuse of government spending. Here we've got politics. It's very interesting cards on the table, all telling a story here. Now, society collapsing. Are we starting to see how society has started collapsing since the pandemic, since the border lockdowns? Are we being released information of how that has affected people's mental health? Enemy within. This is people going within, the mental health crisis or pandemic that stemmed from the COVID pandemic or the health matters, where other health matters are important here. I also see this enemy within related somehow to, it could be something we hear about, breakdown of society, breakdown of rules. This could be the youth in Australia and the issues we have with youth crime, because it is a society collapse. So maybe it is related to youth crime within Australia. Could be looking for a problem, politicians stepping up and looking for a problem to the youth crime problem that we have in Australia. It could be other types of crime problems that I'm seeing, but it's within Australia, and one of the biggest problems we do have is youth crime. So here I'm seeing society collapse, which is the breakdown of rules, the breakdown of boundaries. This could be crossing state lines here with crossing borders. So the problems spreading. It used to be that the problems were Queensland, they were quite heavy, and now I see Victoria is getting quite intense with youth crime. Could we be seeing more other states progressing with youth crime, or could we see other rulers stepping up and starting to make rules for these problems that we have, the society collapse, enemy within? So like they did in COVID pandemic times, when they became individual states and they made individual rules, and lockdowns were determined by state leaders rather than national leaders. So could we be seeing this with the youth crime problems that we have, or other problems we have? It does feel like society collapse, so it feels like crime. Youth crime is our biggest crime, but it could also be economic as well. Even though there's no economic things, that is another issue we have within society. It is collapsing small business, it's collapsing, it's making it prolonging recovery from these issues over here. So recovery of where we were prior to the health pandemic, the shutdowns. The solutions to get us back on track, we are nowhere near what we were before, and I'm seeing issues. So we're either returning to a state type of management system, government system statewide, because we're talking here with borders. We're talking, and the only borders we have are state borders. So are we talking about states looking for solutions or problems? Now, classified knowledge. So this is indicating that information is not shared between states. So they're all doing things in different ways, just like they did in the pandemic. When we do have a real problem here in Australia with an enemy within, society collapse, that's the economy and the youth crime, or the crime within Australia. It could actually be other types of crime. I'm seeing here this being enemy within could also be a terror alert. So issues around terror alert, society collapse. Here, I do see we do have some issues also. We have some issues where they're bringing in certain mindsets that they had in their own countries, which is causing a bit of society collapse here within Australia, and the politicians need to find a solution to that issue there. Okay, let's move on to the next part. But I do see on the table prominent things here is the health matters and the pandemic. So we've got 2 health cards, but we've got keeping quiet and classified knowledge around evidence of a scandal. I feel that's where that fits in. Let's take a look. First of all, let's take a look at the minor parties first of all, before we jump in back into the energy around the major parties. First of all, I'm going to take a look at Clive Palmer's party, Trumpet of Patriots, and their PM challenger. Sue Ellen Wrightson named Shadow Minister for Families. Clive Palmer has announced the appointment of medical worker and former elected councillor Sue Ellen Wrightson as Shadow Minister for Families. She's got a strong political background and campaigned as a federal Senate candidate for Palmer United in 2013. The energy around Sue Ellen Wrightson. Now, in all honesty, I don't know what she stands for. I'm not sure I'm not familiar with every politician in Australia, so I'm not quite sure what she's standing for, but I do feel she is looking to shake things up. It says earthquake or shake up. I really feel like she wants to shake up corruption or corrupt dealings. Now, I'm not sure what corruption that she's talking about, but she is really looking to shake things up around corruption. Also, perhaps may even be into environmental toxins. As I said, I'm not sure what she's into, but I feel her being a campaigning. She's let me get the right word here of her energy. She's proactive in the. I'm actually going to pull one of my action cards, because I feel her energy is very action orientated. She's very proactive on the front foot. She's not on the back foot. She feels to be explosive. Now, she's either gotten herself in an explosive situation, or she's going to get herself into an explosive situation, which can mean argument, it can mean blow-ups, or that she's not afraid to stand up and can be a little explosive. As I said, I don't know her. She looks quite sweet in her photos, looks very intelligent. I feel her energy to be very switched on. She's very switched on, lights on around her, but I feel that she can either become explosive, or she gets very explosive around certain rights, human rights, certain rights around, and I would say environmental toxins, I would say corrupt dealings. There's certain things she feels like need shaking up in Australia, and she can be very strong energy around her. That's what I'm feeling, this explosive energy. So her joining forces, now, does that mean her joining forces with the party, the Clive Palmer party, or her joining forces with someone else? Elon Musk is sitting below. Now, I don't think it's anything to do with space or rockets. I don't think that's what it is. This is normally my Elon Musk card. Is her energy like Elon Musk? Is that why this card is showing up? But it's joining forces somewhere with someone here. I feel very strong energy. Now, I'm not going to ask if she's going to win with these cards. I do have another deck coming in within 2 or so weeks, and that gives me answers on winning and losing around political parties. This just gives me predictive energy around what's coming up around them. Now, I do feel she's downgraded for some reason. downgraded. So downgrading either a explosive situation or trying to downgrade the amount of corrupt dealings going on within Australia, or environmental toxins. So environmental toxins can be environment issues, but it can also be things like our water, our drinking water, our food supplies, our clean air as well. There could be issues around that. So she's quite proactive, and I feel very strong energy around her when it comes to shaking up the status quo, shaking up the way things are. But it is a heavy burden. That's a heavy burden to be able to make some kind of budge. But I feel she's not afraid of the challenge. Beautiful, actually very strong energy I'm picking up around her, very go-getter energy. So that's why I've decided to pull one of these cards for her energy. Let's get a little more insight into the type of person that Sue Ellen Wrightson is. Okay, can be a little impulsive, which could be very much related to this explosive energy card here. I feel a strong passion. That was the word that I was looking for when I was trying to tap into and explain how I feel her energy to be. She's passionate. She's passionate about certain things, and really not backward in going forward about the passion that she has, the different things that she wants to stand up for or shake up and make changes to. I see her being an asset. It says asset, it says assert actually, not asset. So it's assert authority. So she's very strong-willed person, quite assertive in her energy. And that's what I was picking up around her, being not afraid to charge forward, not afraid to stand up and get into heated battles over here when it comes to the explosiveness. Can be a little impulsive, but really, really good, strong energy around what she's passionate about, and can be very assertive with her energy there. So I do feel that she wants to shake up and make changes. Whether or not she has that opportunity, I'll ask in the next reading when I've got my new cards, and I can ask how she will fare in the election. But I do feel her coming in with a big role to play, a big heavy burdens coming in. There's a lot of work that needs to be done here in Australia to shake up corrupt dealings, corruption, to shake up environmental toxins, to shake up, but I do feel her joining forces with someone too. It's almost like the Trump Elon alliance. It's almost like that. This is maybe why I'm seeing this Elon card here. So she's like joining forces with somebody. Now this could be Clive Palmer, I'm not sure, but joining forces with somebody to be a formidable team. That's the word I've heard. It's not, but this is formidable energy is what I'm feeling, as a joint forces energy is what I'm feeling around her. Pauline Hanson, One Nation energy. Okay, again, like what we saw early on in the reading for the April, what's coming up for April predictions, there was issues around the pandemic crisis as well as classified information around that. Now, is this something that she's trying to break through with? I see a solution to a problem again, and a breakthrough I saw here, breakthrough over here. So trying to break through and get answers on how things were handled. Is she a driving force in getting to the bottom of what's been classified around the pandemic or health crisis? I do also see her interested in infrastructure, maybe progress with infrastructure, or that we're not moving forward with infrastructure in relation to immigration. So that could be one of her policies or one of her issues here. But I see her now, okay, I was just tapping into something then around making bridges or it's not burning bridges. I don't think it's burning bridges, but this bridge card is bringing me into something of, it could even be burning bridges. Trying to find a solution to situations going on, but she's got her eyes set on the future, but she's thinking about now. So what I'm seeing around her, especially when it comes to infrastructure, immigration around her, I feel like she's thinking about what things are going to be like in the future, but that we need to act now with this. It's a big issue. It's a big problem. There's been lies. There's been deception. As I tap into her energy, I feel her energy actually. It's very forceful energy. Let me just pull the words in for what I feel her energy. I might actually pull one of the action cards for her as well. I feel it's a big issue, and that's why I'm pointing a lot, because that feels it's coming from her energy. Big city, big issue. This is urgent. We need to do something about it now, not in the future. The future will be too late. We need to find the solution right now for the problems that's going on for future. Planning around infrastructure and immigration. That's what I'm feeling around her energy. Intense, but I do feel her also looking into classified information or around the pandemic and how things happened in the pandemic. So she may be leading that line of campaigning over April, because that's what came up in the April readings, but then it's also come up in Pauline Hanson's readings. Now, interesting here, I'm seeing 3 lab coats. So this is science or medical industry. So all lab coat cards here. One is sightings or disclosure, one is experimental test, and one is science breakthrough. So she's either looking into something around breakthroughs in technology, or things, experiments or tests that's been done on Australia. So I'm not sure where that's going, but it's talking about medical in the either medical industry, because we've got lab coats, doctors, and then we've got pandemic. So there's something going on there with that one there. But let me pull one of these cards for her, just so I can see where her energy is. Okay, Pauline Hanson. She's changing direction, changing path. That's really interesting. Limitless horizon. So I see her expanding or growing. So she's challenging, taking on new challenges or taking on new campaign issues. So where she's known for certain things, I feel her expanding her. It's not value, it's expanding her. It's more than knowledge. It's about what she's looking into, or the direction she's going. She's expanding that. She could be looking to expand her party, the One Nation Party, and maybe taking it in slightly a different direction than what we have seen from her in the past. The Endor Dutton turning Oz into a communist country by 2030. Let's see what the cards have to say about that. Actually, the new deck that I have coming in has a communist card in it. So that's going to be a good question to ask again in 2 weeks when I have the new deck. It's just based mainly for political questions. So I will reread these with the new deck as well and see what cards come out for that. Comes to Albanese or Dutton turning Oz into a communist country, or having plans to do that by 2030. Look, we've got 2 cards here about something being a planned outcome and strategic planning. So while it may not actually be full communist, as in we don't have a facade of a democratic election, I will say facade. Here it's showing there is some corruption. So there's some corruption that takes place around the idea of tightening the binds around the Australian public. That's what I'm picking up around this energy. So yes, there is plans in place, a planned outcome, a strategic planning, corruption involved perhaps in there. It's corrupt dealings. It may not be for the people. We could be looking at joining forces. Are we talking about, does it matter if it's Albanese or Dutton? That's what I'm feeling like. Joined forces, corruption. I don't think it really matters here around that. So joining forces, are we just really just the same side of, it's a different side of the same coin is what I'm feeling around joined forces. I'll see if there's anything else I can pick up around that energy, but I do feel there's a spanner in the works here. There's an unexpected result. So while they're putting things in place and they're planning certain outcomes for the Australian people, for the way, the direction of Australia, particularly when it comes to 2030, I feel like there is unexpected results around that. So it may not go their way completely. Here it's saying taken by force. What is it they're wanting to take by force? That's concerning here with the currency, to do with banking and currency. That could be a little bit of an issue, I feel. Wanting to replace or exchange a certain system, or replace or exchange a certain political party or way that we do things that could be related to the banking or the currency. Taking by force, is that taking more rights away from us? Is that the strategy to take something by force? Somehow connected to the banking system. Currency. Joining forces, so that feels to me like, because we're talking in this question Albo and Dutton, but joining forces. So really, is one less corrupt than the other? I mean, I don't know. I shouldn't, as allegedly here, it's all card reading, entertainment purposes only. I'm not accusing them of being corrupt, but the cards are just saying here that there is some kind of corrupt deals going on in the background, a planned outcome that they have for 2030. A lot of strategic planning has been going on for this and is continuing to go on, but I feel like they're trying to replace or exchange something we currently have going on right now. Could be related to the banking system, could be related to politicians. It's something that we have and they're trying to change. It could be even related to homes. I'm feeling wanting to take something by force. So certain laws that's in place that protects Australians, maybe they're the things they're looking to replace or exchange. I'd say they're the things that we need to be careful of. We need to be careful about what new policies come into play around Australia, because there's probably fine print in them that leads to whatever their expected outcome is for 2030, what they're trying to bring through, comes through in unexpectedly in different policies that are coming out, new policies, and they're replacing or exchanging things that protect the rights of citizens here. Interesting. They're quite strong cards on the table here. Let's get into Labor and Liberal. What I see coming up around Albanese is damage already done, escalating tension. Here this could be to do with Ukraine or China. This is because, if you remember, China warships surrounding Australia, energy weapons, they were firing energy weapons. So I feel this is what this could be related to. And classified knowledge. So this could be what knowledge did Albanese have of that, trying to get that situation to return to normal. So maybe he's taken some heat around not doing anything about the Chinese warships in our waters, doing energy weapon experiments or work with energy, sorry, I shouldn't say energy, it's weaponry experiments around Australian waters, and Albanese either not knowing about it or saying that he knew about it and didn't want to tell us, so classifying the knowledge, so not informing us. He's hoping that things return to normal, trying to get things to return to normal around the heat or the damage done, the consequences for that action around not doing something about it or not telling the public what he did know, saying that he didn't know, or he knew, saying he did know but didn't want to tell us. That was the answer to him. He's why he didn't know China was surrounding us. But he's taken heat over that. Damage is done, consequences for that. He's trying to deal and manage those, wanting things to return to normal. Let's pull one card for action-orientated card for Albanese. Anthony Albanese. Let's take a look at his energy. I can't wait to get the new cards to see what his energy is with those cards. I've created them especially to look into these kind of questions. Okay, I see him, he's playing with fire. Anthony Albanese playing with fire. Victory March, interesting. Okay, so he's moving forward. Okay, so he's playing with fire, something that he's involved in or something he's doing, something he's trying to move through, but he's thinking about the future and his way to move forward for his victory march. So he's thinking ahead, thinking about victory, and he's moving forward. That's where his mindset is. But he's playing with fire, danger or something heating up around him. On the mainstream news, we often see Peter Dutton on the mainstream news, but something coming up around aircraft. So it could be air travel for him. It says unusual aircraft. It could be unusual air activity. It could be something to do with his air travel here as part of a scandal. So another scandal coming out in mainstream news around Peter Dutton could be related to air travel here. We see a disappointing result, something to do with donations or offerings for the Liberal Party. Here, it could be linked to the scandal, but it could also just be linked to a not quite getting in as much donations as what they normally do or what they need. Now, I do see here on the table controlled puppet. Here, this is all alleged. It's card reading, entertainment purposes only, and toxic masculinity. So I'm not going to read these two any further. I think they're in your face. Now, I don't know if that's the kind. I don't know if that suits him or not. I've never dealt with him before, but it's what's on the table around him. Maybe people are fearful that he's going to carry toxic masculinity. Maybe some of his policies may be more aimed towards toxic masculinity. Maybe people are concerned that he's a controlled puppet. That could be what the issues are. This is how he's viewed. I'm not sure, but could be one of the things. Or that is saying that's what it is. But a disappointing outcome when it comes to donations or offerings for the Liberal Party, or it could be scandals relating to offerings, but scandals could also be aircraft. So I do see him in the mainstream news in April around a scandal coming out, whether that's to do with toxic masculinity, controlled puppet, offerings, or a disappointed outcome. There's some kind of scandal around him where he's going to be in the mainstream. I mean, he's already in the mainstream. We know that. We expect to see him there. But I see a scandal coming out around him related to one of these things. Let's pull one of these cards to check his energy. Oh, there's his cards already. He's fearless. Wants to conquer. Okay, very uplifting energy around him. You can do this. Positive energy, motivating energy, feels confident energy. I can do this, you can do this. So that's the kind of energy around him. He's quite determined. He's quite strong in his energy and believes he can do this. So, and he's fearless. He's not afraid to step forward on certain issues, but very interesting that they're sitting on top of controlled puppets. So that's quite interesting sitting there. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm looking forward to next fortnight. I will do these readings again with the new deck. They're going to be really powerful. Thank you so much for watching.